Rashbihari Bose had arrived in Japan as Rabindranath Tagore's cousin Priyonath Thakur, but his efforts to procure arms for Bagha Jatin did not escape the attention of British intelligence. All pretense was dropped after Rashbihari organized a public event for Lala Lajpat Rai in Tokyo on 17 November 1915. Japan was nominally a British ally at that time and came under intense diplomatic pressure to deport Rashbihari along with Hirenbo Lal Gupta, the representative of the Berlin India Committee in Tokyo. The Japanese government eventually issued orders on 28 November stating that the two had to leave the country by 2nd December. This was effectively a death sentence as there were no scheduled ships to a neutral country before this date. All ships were routed through Hong Kong, Shanghai, Singapore, and Vancouver. The Japanese press was outraged as it was seen as an insult to the country's sovereignty and the betrayal of a fellow Asian. Nonetheless, on 1st December, the Chief of Metropolitan Police issued a statement that the Indians would be handed over to the British if they did not leave the country by 10 am the next day. Desperate, Rashbihari reached out to his friend Toyama, who invited them home for a farewell party that evening. Both Hirenbo Lal and Rashbihari arrived at Toyama's house in the evening. They were tailed by a couple of policemen. As is customary, they took off their shoes and went inside while the policemen respectfully stood outside. Toyama was too politically powerful to force an entry. Once inside, the Indians were told that there was an escape plan. The two were herded barefoot through a kitchen back door that led into a neighbor's house. After exiting into a different street, they walked down the hill to where a getaway car was waiting for them. The policemen, meanwhile, kept up their watch in front of Toyama's house as they could see the shoes still lying outside the door. The Indians were now taken to the premises of Aizo Soma and his wife Kokko, the owners of a well-known bakery, Nakamuraya, at Shinjuku. Rashbihari and Hirenbo Lal were taken to a small standalone studio at the back of the bakery. They had to strictly stay inside all day as there were many customers milling around. It was like a prison, but they were safe for the moment. Kokko, who knew some English, translated the numerous news reports that appeared over the next few days about their disappearance. They were full of conjecture about what had happened. It was also clear that public opinion was strongly in their favor. After 2 months, however, Hirenbo Lal had had enough. He unilaterally escaped one evening through a window and moved to the home of a Japanese friend. This caused a temporary scare until the Somas found out what had happened. Rashbihari was now all alone in the studio. He decided to learn Japanese and taught himself the basics using a bilingual textbook and help from Kokko. He also procured some Indian ingredients and started cooking curries for himself. Life settled into a pattern until an almost forgotten incident changed the situation. A British naval vessel fired on a Japanese ship, Tenyu Maru, and forced it to dock in Hong Kong. 7 Indians were taken off and sent to Singapore, effectively kidnapped. The Japanese lodged a strong protest and retaliated by withdrawing the deportation orders against Rashbihari and Hirenbo Lal. They were now free to come out. Toyama even organized a suitable house for Rashbihari. A few weeks after moving into his new home, Rashbihari organized a dinner to thank everyone who had helped him. Everyone except Kokko was surprised when the Indian gave a speech in Japanese. They were also treated to an Indian meal prepared by Rashbihari himself. Rashbihari now became an important member of the Pan Asian movement, which was quite strong in Japan. Despite his changed status, however, he knew that agents hired by British intelligence were keeping an eye on him and tailing his Japanese friends. He changed homes several times, but the agents always found him. There was constant fear that they would harm him or that the British would find an opportunity to arm twist the Japanese government into handing him over. This went on for 2 years. Toyama's solution was radical. He suggested that Rashbihari marry Aizo's daughter Toshiko and become a Japanese citizen. Aizo and Kokko were taken aback, but it turned out that Rashbihari and Toshiko had fallen in love during the months that he was hiding in the studio at Nakamuraya. They would meet when Toshiko brought in food and other essentials for Rashbihari, although they had barely ever spoken. Therefore, they had never expressed their feelings for each other. It was only when Toyama made the suggestion that Toshihiko confessed to her parents that she wanted to marry Rashbihari. The latter had similarly kept his feelings to himself, as he had always believed that his revolutionary activities precluded family life. Now that the matter had been broached, he expressed his willingness to marry Toshiko. They got married in a private ceremony in Toyama's house on 9 July 1918. The marriage would be a very happy one. A son was born in 1920 and a daughter in 1922. Rashbihari became a naturalized Japanese citizen in 1923. Unfortunately, Toshiko came down with a severe case of pneumonia in 1924 and passed away at the young age of 28. In her final moments, they held hands and slowly chanted Vedic mantras that they used to chant together every morning. Rashbihari later wrote, "Our married life was very short, but it was bliss. I had a feeling that I enjoyed total happiness during those days." In the 1920s, the Nakamuraya bakery began to decline due to the entry of competition. The Somas responded by converting part of the premise into a cafe that served a new menu that included authentic Indian curries. This was Rashbihari's contribution and it was a big success. Many of Tokyo's elite and intelligentsia came frequently to Nakamuraya to eat authentic curry. Rashbihari was probably not the first to introduce Indian cuisine to Japan, but he was certainly the person who popularized it. He soon became known widely as boss of Nakamuraya. Japanese writers of the interwar period often mention the cafe. In the year of 1943, the Japanese government honored him with the highest title given to a foreigner, the Second Order of Merit of the Rising Sun. He died in 21st January 1945, aged 58, in Tokyo, Japan.